It's funny how we humans think what's right and wrong. For example, in every country, what they think is right and wrong in a courtroom to take your children away from you. They might say that you're teaching your children the wrong way. But then again, how do we teach our children? We teach our children in the same way that we've been conditioned and indoctrinated, and how life's traumas and experiences of good and bad have conditioned us to be. So if we're an extreme anarchist, traveller, living in a bus, we'll bring our kids up to think of the idea of living in a house and not travelling and staying in the same place as ridiculous, and as working for somebody else instead of self-survival, autonomous survival is ridiculous. Or if you're a radical religious fanatic of whatever religion, think of any of the major world religions you want. I won't say any specific one, all of them, except all of them. And you bring your children up believing what you've been taught to believe. But is that not child indoctrination? I always told my son, actually, asked me about things like that when he was still around me, that's a question he should look at everything and decide when he's grown up what he wants to believe or not believe, because humans don't really know, but everybody has beliefs. But use that example, for example, of children, because I'm allowed to see my son if I go to Singapore, but if he can't come and see me because they don't think I'm fitting because of my political beliefs. So they don't want me telling my son my political beliefs because they go against the Singaporean state, because I think it's a human rights abuse country, which is conditioned. But what is human rights? Do we have any rights? Should we have rights? Whoever made the assumption that humans have the right to have rights anyway, and that we should have human rights. It's a good thing. I'm a human rights activist and a very outspoken person on it. But it's all conditioned. And so what's wrong with us, Where I live, there's a lot of people of a certain religion, which is very extreme in my opinion, and they believe you get merit if they convert you to their religion, so they never stop hassling me. And I can remember being as a kid just thinking, look at every religion of the world. I've traveled to 43 countries, or 47 or 48 countries, I don't know. And everywhere you go, everybody thinks they're right and that all the other ones are wrong. And I thought, everybody thinks they're right and that all the other ones are wrong, which means they're all wrong, because they're all completely one-sided with their views. One thing I agree with the Buddha, the person they know as the Buddha, is that he didn't have a view except that all views are one-sided and therefore not objective and therefore false. And so what's wrong with us? Well, a continuación, as I say in Spanish, to continue. So in continuation, I was just watching something humans call a movie, actually a documentary about the making of the Man in the Moon with Jim Carrey, which was about a very strange, eccentric comedian known as Andy Kaufman, who really existed. It was about the life of Andy Kaufman, who was either very funny or a very dislikable person. And Jim Carrey, it was actually the beginning of the phase where everybody said Jim Carrey was going crazy, where he did not go out of role during the whole movie. He drove everybody else in. People said that movie, probably everybody in the movie needed some treatment for stress, because Jim Carrey just played Andy Kaufman and all the characters that Andy Kaufman played the whole time, and he wouldn't stop acting as Andy Kaufman. So nobody could talk to Jim Carrey during the movie. And he became Andy Kaufman. And of course, many people who know about Jim Carrey's life and his trajectory know he had an identity crisis. A lot of people said he went mad, which I don't agree with. I think what he got was sunyata citta, as you say in Buddhism, in Thai Buddhism, which means the awareness of emptiness or of vacuity, or the absence of conditioned aspects to a thing. So it's like, what is a person? Who am I? And he was talking about how when he came out of the movie, he couldn't really remember who Jim Carrey was, because he'd been Andy Kaufman all the time. He was invited by, what was that group's name? FX or something, with the Australian singer committed suicide. Was invited to, in the song The Great Beyond, by the REM song The Great Beyond, to play Andy Kaufman in the music video, and he wouldn't, because he didn't want to go back to being Andy Kaufman. And he did the Truman Show, where he was a person who didn't even know he was in a reality TV show and that his life was actually not real. And it was just all being viewed by the rest of the world, and he was inside a dome. And then one day he steps out of who Truman is and becomes himself and leaves the dome. And he said the Truman Show became a teaching for him that, who is Jim Carrey? We are born and we are told you got to go to Harvard, you got to become a doctor, or you got to go to Oxford, or you got to get your O-levels, you got to get a job like your dad in the furniture business, or you become a tattoo artist, or you become an expert on Buddhism, or an expert on Thai amulets, and you're the tattoo artist Ajahn Spencer, you're the Rusi Ajahn Spencer, you're Jim Carrey, the comedian, the actor. You're all these things that people see you as, but you're none of those things that people see you as. Who is the real you? Yesterday on Facebook I made a post that was about how when you die, kind of like, if in the last life you were Cleopatra and in this life you are Susan or John, because you could be male or female, and in the next life you'll be Frank. Well, Frank isn't you, and you are John, you're not Cleopatra. So you don't get to travel to the next life, just your energy does. So I said in this post how energy is transformed, and the something is knowing, and until it's transformed into something that has an identity or a sense of self, such as a human or a chimpanzee or an elephant, then there is just no becoming, because an elephant or a human or a chimpanzee has this sensation of changing and becoming. You never get to be anything. You're in a constant state of becoming, which means you're not a person, you're not a particular person, a certain set of parameters that is your personality. You're changing all the time. And so there is no you there, as just this changing state of becoming. And it's when there is no changing state of becoming that is being, which is what we call not being. We think this is being. This is not being, this is becoming. And are we what we really are? No, we're becoming what we're becoming. If we wish to be, we have to stop being. You have to stop being Spencer, because that's not me. That's a role I play in life. What they taught me and what you have to do in your profession. Sometimes you have to lie through your teeth, like Jim Carrey said. So you have to put on a monkey suit in the morning, and you have to go to work, and you have to say good morning and perform all these social and cultural traditional habits of politeness and manners, which is what Andy Kaufman and Jim Carrey both tried to destroy. and the punk rock revolution tried to destroy. But the thing is, the conditioning is part of the evolutionary survival process of perception. Yeah. So if when you're a kid, you see a lion jump out of a bush or a wild dog jump out of a bush and bite you, you will develop a fear of the bush. Every time you see a bush, you're going to think there's a dog going to come out and bite you, might jump out and bite you. You're afraid of what might be in the bush. So you don't just develop a fear of dogs, you develop a fear of bushes. Or an alertness. As soon as you're near a bush, this automatic alertness that is programmed in picks you up. And you take notice of the bush and you feel the fight or flight, the chemicals. And that affects your behavior, your emotions. So where's the free will in that? Like Jim Carrey said, he's not a believer in free will so much. Because when he feels thirsty and wants to lift up his cup of tea and have a sip of tea, what's making him sip the tea? Is it free will? Or is it because he's thirsty? It's because he's thirsty. So who's telling him to pick up the tea and drink it? Yeah. And so what are we doing? We have, a continuación to continue with the next point. The next point is that truly is a sense of being an individual. There is, in fact, only movement and suffering. And constant, if you look at a flickering flame, you'll see it cannot come to rest. So there's a restlessness. It's restlessness. And I come back to thinking about the interview with Jim Carrey I was watching, where he said he used to focus on wanting to be famous, wanting to be a person, just as society conditioned him. And it's of course what caused his identity crisis, because it's not you who puts on that monkey suit and goes to work and says and behaves in the way that you're expected to, because that's really not you, and it's who you've been taught to think you are, who you think you are. And it's how you've been taught you think you should be. And we all do it. We spend our lives trying to act out a role. And in fact, this is the Truman Show. Life itself is a role, which is why William Shakespeare said, all the world is a stage. Yeah? And we are all but actors in it. Yeah? We are merely actors in it. But is it not possible to stop acting and step off the stage and to actually be oneself? But to be oneself, one has to stop being all of these society-created, externally created, and self-created, meaning internally created and conditioned selves and behaviors that we think we are. Looking at happiness, lasting happiness, not temporary happiness. Temporary happiness would be like cracking a raw egg on your friend's head, punking him or her to have a laugh. It would last 10 minutes, yeah? And maybe a few times in life remember it and have a laugh again, and have another few minutes pleasure. So it could be repeated pleasure, but it's temporary. So to look at what would leave me really happy, being who I am, how I am, not who I am. Because if you think, who am I? Then you try to be something, and you never get to be it, because you spend your whole time trying to become it. There is no being until you stop. There is only becoming. That's why it's becoming, because you're not stopping, you're transforming, developing. And humans, we think we're developing cities. The WF thinks it's transforming the world to save the ecology and to save humanity, all based on its false assumptions, with each person with their own political beliefs, religions and ethics and profession and social status. And all of the solutions we think of are based completely on a lie. A lie which is every person in the world and ourselves. The only people who are not a lie to themselves and to others, who are not a pretense at least, which is the same as a lie. Don't say a lie can be a bad thing, it's a lie, it's not true. You have truth and lies. Lies are considered by religious people as sinful. I would say insects, some of them look like leaves, and they hide themselves and survive because of that. What are they doing? Well, according to humans, they're lying. That's cheating. Yeah, hide and seek. It's cheating. Well, what's cheating? That's another human idea. But if you look at nature, you'll see one crow hide his food, and the other crow will hide in the bushes watching where he hides it so that when he goes away he can steal it. But nature taught him to do that, so he survives. Is he sinning? I don't know. Sin is also another human conditioned concept that makes you feel bad afterwards and unhappy. But did you need to do it? Or did you do it out of being malefic or benevolent? That's a different matter. That's where you have to look at yourself and control. Yeah? You don't need ethics to do that, to have a harmful or an unharmful intention and attitude. Yeah? You don't have to be somebody to be like that either. In fact, being somebody makes you be like that. Being nobody makes you not take offense and not want to take revenge and not want to do those things. But if you look at the animals in the wild, you will see they don't lie, they don't need a religion, they don't need to go to church, they don't need to pay taxes. They don't steal the berries from the trees because they don't belong to anybody in the first place. But we think they do because we paid somebody for that garden and that vineyard. And then we kill all of the insects for which the grapes grow so that the earth has its proper balance, just so that we can make our own invented monetary exchange. What is wrong, nature or us? Us, of course. We have a completely unenlightened view of ourself, of existence. And believe me, even in our religions, or don't believe me, decide for yourself. Even in our religions, when you pass away, you go to a courtroom. But if you look behind me in the background, you'll see this universe, what we see now, yeah, is the remnants of the Big Bang. We're still in the first moment that scattered the stars into space, and we're still scattering now, moving outwards. And we're still in that very first moment. No time has passed since then, only movement in space, time, continuum. Yeah? Time is just something we say is the feeling of impatience and the process of change. The process and speed of change is what we call time, the speed of change. So if I fly at the speed of light and I change my aging, different to you, stay home on Earth, I come back, you're older, I'm younger. It's not. It's still the same moment. Both of us are still in the same present moment. It's just that I've been moving at a speed that caused my aging process to move more slowly. It's space-time, it's distance and speed of movement between distance. But time? I have ADHD. There is no sense of passage of time. I have no sense of passage of time. There is only now. If you ask me tomorrow when to take a taxi, I will actually feel stressed up because I can't answer that. I don't know when I'm going to wake up. I don't even know if I want to go or take a taxi anywhere. And I definitely don't know what time I'm waking up, so I'm not going to be able to tell you what time I want to go, if I do want to go. It's not tomorrow yet. I don't know how I'm going to feel. So I can't answer you that question. So conditioning. And who are we? And what is becoming? And what is being? Being is when you have completely abandoned becoming and the causes of becoming. And of course, when you pass away, if your energy doesn't have the craving that causes you to become and re-enter into becoming, then you will become that which is not anything. But there is something, you might be able to call it an awareness, that is unchanging and unfluctuating, and that is truly being. And I think that is what Buddhists may call nirvana or nibbana. And so, that's the first of my Dear Diaries on conditioning, and it's not mine. It's just a recording that happened, that through a series of events, including me wanting that which I think is me wanting to make this recording, signing off until part 2. Please subscribe to the channel of the imaginary person known as Ajahn Spencer. I'd really appreciate it. Or the person who thinks he's Ajahn Spencer would, at least.